Yeah, thanks so much. Just again for getting us started, and Brian and Avi for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk about this hot topic. As Brian and I were getting ready for today, we were kind of dwelling on some of the other great webinars and forums that we've hosted. And Brian, you brought up, often you and I had joined the CISO series with David Spark, and we talk about all kinds of topics like this, and he plays some game, and you wanted to break the ice with our audience and do that. Can you kind of remind me what that was?
Yeah, so if you've ever listened to the CISO Series podcast, it's go check it out. I think we posted a link in the chat. You can just go on LinkedIn or Google David Sparks CISO Series. It's great. And one of the things he does is play a game, I think good idea and bad idea. And so I thought it'd be fun. We're going to talk about Gen AI and Copilot and ChatGPT today. So I'd love to hear people's suggestions for what's the best idea for using Gen AI and Copilot for 365. What's the absolute best thing you can think to do of, and maybe what's the absolute worst thing? What's the best or the worst bad idea in using Gen AI? I'm curious what people
Yeah,
think.
we'll take a look
What
in
have
the
they done?
chat and shout out some of the best things that we see there. And while you guys are thinking about kind of what's the best or what's best and what's worst when it comes to Gen AI, I'd like to chime in and talk about some of the things that I've seen from a productivity standpoint. I really do believe that the era we're in now with generative AI and how good it is one of the greatest productivity boosts of our time. When I think I would compare it to like Teams. I would compare it to, getting exchange on your phone. Like these are transformative moments in technology. And just to give you guys a couple examples, and Brian and Avi, if you could as well talk about how you personally use Gen AI from a productivity standpoint, I think that would be great. Like me, I'm using things like Copilot every day to summarize maybe meetings that I can't attend, or I get added to these very large email threads. I run Varonis incident response on our cloud operations team. Customers having are very sophisticated or very highly technical interactions with our engineering teams. And sometimes I need to jump in at the last minute to a phone call. And beforehand, getting Copilot to give me a summary of the 30, 40, or 50 pages of emails that happened before then has been like so transformative for me. In addition to that, I'm making presentations like this all the time, or I'm working with Ashley on another marketing effort, and we need images. We need images that we can use for maybe backgrounds of the data first forum. So who knows, maybe even the background that's standing behind me was made by Copilot. Avi, what about you? How has Copilot and generative AI boosted your productivity?
Thank you, and firstly to say that I'm very happy to participate in this webinar all together with our great partnership with Varonis, Microsoft and Varonis. I would say the first thing, maybe not in my day-to-day work, but mainly I would like to see my wife a bit less on the ChatGPT, because since the ChatGPT was out there, she's always planning trips, and I'm really concerned about the money that I need to pay on those trips eventually, because it's easy to create detailed trips, what you do in 3 days in Rome, and what you can do in Amsterdam. It's very easy, but for consumers, I think in the last 1 year it was a real boom and hype. That firstly, this is the first time that actually AI was democratized to consumers. They actually now understand what is AI. You can talk with her, you can create things, and now it's sometimes it's much more easier task to do, and we can focus on different things. Now it's a bit different when you come into organization. Now you ask me, I need to eat my own dog food in Microsoft, so we are using Teams, Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint. But I would say that mainly I'm using two main things that's helping my day in my day to be much more productive, I must say, because this is why we are also call it in Microsoft a co-pilot and not the pilot. The co-pilot is an assistant that can help me do stuff much more quicker and effective. So I'm using Teams mainly. I'm opening my day with Teams because I don't need to jump on different console and look at my email in one hand and then go into Teams to see if I have any chats or stuff like that. I'm using the business chat in Teams, where I can ask the chat inside the Teams, how is my week will look like, meetings, etc., important stuff that I need to take care of. Behind the scene, the chat GPT within Teams will go into the main, I would say, data 365 graph data, and will consolidate all the information that I can see due to that data policy. So you will look on my calendar, my emails, my documentation, and they will craft to me, an agenda, and it can help me, in one place to get all the required information. On additional things that I'm doing day to day, I'm meeting a lot with customers. So I'm doing a lot of conversations and virtual meetings, and of course, working within Microsoft with different peers. So I'm jumping on many calls. Not always I'm able to, follow up the entire calls. So Teams is recapping me the meetings. So after the meeting, I'm getting a recap that is summarizing me the keynotes. What action items are related to me as Avi, because someone in that meeting mentioned my name and an action item. So it's very sophisticated stuff that after the meeting, I can see the follow-up and summarization. And not only for I would say the offline summarization, I'm using Teams also for online meetings. So within the meeting itself, as a live meeting, maybe I came late to the meeting, maybe I'm not in the right focus, I can ask the chat within Teams in live meeting, what has been talked so far, what are the key topics, is there an action item for me to take? So I can speed up my onboarding to this meeting and really be there with a high focus. So I can say that these are the main things that I'm using within Microsoft.
That's amazing. And it sounds like in addition to Microsoft benefiting, that your wife is benefiting from the co-pilot and planning the travel too. So there's a couple of fans of Gen AI in your household. And Brian, we've gotten a ton of responses to your question from the chat, as well as
Oh, there's so many good ones.
yeah, I know you're using it. So what do you got to add?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some great ones in here. Write my resume and include my socials. One of my favorite ones from the chat. It's funny, Avi, you bring up your wife using it for planning. Varonis, we're doing customer events, and I'm going to be speaking in Frankfurt and in Paris and in London and Milan. And I'm literally, before we joined the webinar today, I was booking all this travel, and I was asking Copilot to help me with the timing, hotels to stay at, and then things to do in the weekends, because I'm going to have a weekend in Italy and a weekend in Paris, since I'm not going to go back and forth to
Tough life.
US either. So sometimes these worlds kind of overlap and collide. I absolutely use it for preparation for my week. One of the things that I've been asking Copilot to do is not just how is my week set up, but what research do I need to do? Because I'm sure you do too, and I know Matt, you do. We spend a lot of time with organizations that I may not have talked to in a year or two. So what's been going on in this business? Who am I meeting with? What kinds of things do they care about? Copilot and ChatGPT can be incredibly useful for basically consolidating huge amounts of data and information that I'm not going to have time to research on my own, down to the specific points that I need to know. And it makes me more productive. It saves me a ton of time. I don't want to go back to that old world. Just like I don't want to go back to a world where I didn't have 365 and I didn't have OneDrive and I didn't have Outlook and I didn't have Teams, where all of my data was sitting in files on a laptop, where if that hard drive died, I lost everything. I never want to go back to that world again.
Or how hard it was back then, Brian, when if we wanted to work on a PowerPoint slide together, you would email it to me and then you would make comments on it and then email it back. And we couldn't work on the same document at the same time. I mean, I just think about basic stuff like that and how transformative that was. And I put Gen AI in the same category. Now, I know we're all hyped up about this, right? It's so clear that there is a productivity boost ahead for us and for other organizations. But in addition to, helping and boosting productivity, there's been so much interest in Gen AI, and a lot of people are also skeptical about kind of the power and what could happen. So, one thing, I've heard both of you guys talk about is how important it is to have the right processes in place in order to get going and get a strong start with Gen AI. And so, Avi, I want to throw that at you first. Like, what are things that you need to do before you get Gen AI going?
Yeah, good question. I think that I can say from examples, okay, and real cases when we started this journey, when the hype was out, many enterprise organization, came to us. Okay, we want to start, we want to be on this hype. It can, not just to increase productivity, okay, within the organization, but we have, some customer that want to embed Gen AI into their products and to be unique in the market in that regard. So there is a very rush from I would say development team to embed Gen AI within. But what we observe that Gen AI, at the end, AI, okay, in order to be effective and create high value for customers, they need data. The data is the king or the queen, depends who is talking. But if you don't have the accurate data, the right level of data, the expectation of what Gen AI or AI can bring you is in the level of the data that you have. So now we are seeing, not now, even in the last couple of months, organizations do understand where is my data? Is my data is accurate? Where I need to, because the data is also spread across organization. You have operational databases, you have analytical databases, you have files, it's in different locations. One stream is how can I consolidate? And the second one, by the way, very important one, how can I protect the data? This is the next step that we're seeing. And why I'm saying that, because in Gen AI, especially, it is creating new data. So I can tell the Gen AI, summarize for me this text, okay, or this document. At the end, he will leverage this data from the document, but he will create a new document or a new summarization. Now, it means that he's leveraging my data, and the concern is that if he's creating a new data or new context, I don't want to be exposed or to lose my governance on the data that are already set. Now, we see research from IDC, latest research from IDC, that's showing that roughly 48% of business leaders now concerned about data or IP loss due to improper use of AI, and especially with AI cyber attack that I'm sure that we will talk later on this topic. But data is now the main focus, where customers or organization have the ability to centralize data, and working with the right, I would say, level of data, they can see great value from using AI and Gen AI specifically.
And Brian, before you start, I just wanted to, there was a really good comment in the chat while Avi was talking, I wanted to read out, which was also around, you might have to actually teach your users about prompts and how to kind of save some time on the back and forth on how to make good prompts and how to ask Gen AI the right questions. Brian, what else do organizations need to do? What else do they have to have figured out, at least from your standpoint, before implementing Gen AI?
Yeah, and Avi, you said it. It's all about data. Every conversation about Gen AI is really a conversation about data. And when we think about these copilots, especially a copilot for 365 that leverages all the data that you have access to, it's so powerful because it's got access to the data that you've got in your OneDrive and in all of the teams that you're in, and all of the SharePoint sites that you're a part of, and everything that's in your inbox and your calendar. The trick, though, is that a lot of organizations struggle with oversharing and governance, because one of the great things about these collaborative platforms like 365 is anybody can click share with anybody else. You can create a link that maybe anybody in the organization can use, or you can add someone to a Teams chat, or you can share with a group or a distribution list. And so what a lot of organizations struggle with is, wait a second, where is my most important data? Where is all this employee data? Where is the social security numbers of employees and customers, and where's all this pricing information? Or Matt and I, you and I have access to so much product roadmap information. Where is all this stuff, and who's got access to it, and how is it being used? And so when you think about Gen AI and leveraging these tools, there's kind of two sides to this equation. You want to make people more productive, and that means letting them benefit from all of the data that they have access to. That's part of what makes people so dramatically more productive with these tools. But then the flip side of it is, employees often have access to way too much, and suddenly insiders can use Copilot for 365 potentially to find and maybe exfiltrate data that they're not supposed to. You can also ask it for things like credentials or digital secrets to move laterally or elevate privileges. And no enterprise has enough time and people to go look at every single file and every single link. I was meeting a media company. I sat down with a media company yesterday as part of their Gen AI strategy, and we were doing some kind of back of the napkin math, and they estimated that they probably create more shared links than they have employees every single day. So there's no way that anybody in security or governance or compliance is going to go look at all that stuff. And Avi, to your point, Gen AI can create lots of new data really, really, really quickly. So suddenly the problem from a security and a governance perspective can get bigger even faster. And it's not like these are new issues. We've all struggled with permissions and governance and access. It's just suddenly Copilot and these Gen AI tools make it so easy for someone to just put a prompt in. I don't need to know that I have access to all of this customer information that's sitting in a SharePoint site that I have access to because I'm in a group that's nested in a group that's nested in a group. I don't need to know that anymore. I don't need to go hunting for it. I can just ask Copilot and it's going to get me access to all this data and potentially create a lot of new data. So it creates a lot of governance and security concerns that we're suddenly you have to solve them right now. You can't, it's not just a nice to have anymore.
I keep coming back to, and I'm sure we've all seen the movie, and I know this isn't where the quote originated from, but the movie Spider-Man, right? Where Uncle Ben says to Pete, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I feel like the Gen AI just brings that home again. Now, when we think about attacks, and I look back, at all the attacks that we've investigated, I'll give you guys a couple examples in a second. I also want to get your take on how you think that Gen AI is going to change the way that attacks happen. And I'll give you guys a really good example. Ultimately, I think this is one of the things on why, or at least on the Varonis, and we were so interested in partnering with Microsoft around this, and our partnership around Copilot is you take an insider threat. Today, they have a lot of security through obscurity. They don't know where all these team sites are, where all these SharePoint sites are. They don't, if they're unsophisticated, like a non-IT user, they don't even know how to join public groups or how to exploit and crawl links. I mean, these are things that are sophisticated attackers understand how to do. And so in a lot of ways, your data is somewhat can't be found by them so easily, even with search tools. But Gen AI changes that. Gen AI does not understand or is limited in its ability and its technical ability to search all the data that you have access to. So the average everyday insider is a lot more powerful. And the first few incidents that we've investigated on behalf of our clients have been exactly that. They have been insiders that are, creating prompts to identify information. Oftentimes it's a little bit of snooping. They want to gain information about another employee or about upcoming performance information, or maybe about, layoffs. The companies are still dealing with the growth and the downsizing as it relates to the economy. And so that drives a lot for us. But the other thing I'm starting to think about, and Avi, I know you and Microsoft super passionate about this topic, so I'll ask you to comment on it next, is how are attackers going to use it? One of my big fears is that attackers are going to use a organization's Gen AI to create phishing prompts that look more convincing because they were made off of emails actually written by people at the company. And this is one of the things I worry about. What about you, Avi?
Yeah, I think that this is a very, I would say, important topic. Always, cyber attack and how to defend from attackers was an important topic. Now I think that there is a different magnitude. In one hand, we see Gen AI for goods, to do good things, for us as consumer or organization to benefit from AI. But unfortunately, it can also serve the bad guys, okay, the attackers. And it's in a way, they got now augmented, or they can augment themselves due to this, I would say, technology. But I will try to explain what we see in different domains or categories that for different attack vectors, I would say that can enhance LLM or Gen AI, as you mentioned. I think that one of the things that I mentioned or we discussed it about the data. At the end, to have proper Gen AI, beneath, it needs to run on data. So when I'm doing prompt, okay, asking a question or searching or looking for summarization, behind the scene, it go to a data set, okay, that it needs to take it from there. One thing that we see is data tampering, that if attackers can get a hold of my data repository, okay, they can change the training data for AI models. By changing the training data for AI models, not just to take the service down. This is not really important for attackers, but now they can hide biases or weaknesses into our data platform. Okay, they can change or alter the response that we will get from the Gen AI. And in a way, one domain is disinformation, to create fake news or generating text that, news stories. So for consumers, we can laugh about it. We read it on the internet, but for organization, it's a big deal. by serving their end customers. And if now the Gen AI or the chatbot now will come with fake facts or not the actual facts, and the attacker can lead to different answer that can serve or can harm the organization that they want to attack. This is a domain that I think that it's quite important to take care of. The third one is also search engine manipulation. So, I told you that my wife is doing, planning at the end behind the scene, if using Bing chat copilot, behind the scene, it's using, search engine, big search engine. So behind the scene is going to the data and the internet, taking the first or three first sites and then crafting, I would say, a summary plan. Now, if an attacker, can manipulate by putting a malicious, I would say, tampering on this one, or can manipulate with techniques to alter the search result, my wife can plan to route A and maybe we'll get to route B. So this is another domain that we are looking at. Spear phishing. You mentioned it, Matt. Think of it now that we can tailor, or attacker can tailor very personalized email or conversation that I, as an Avi, will not think, okay, this is a bot or this is a robot. I will truly believe that this is a real person behind the scene that knows me, because now we can collect all the signals from the internet, from my LinkedIn, from my Facebook, from my Instagram, what have you. And the spear phishing now can do a direct, spear to my end, and it will be very personalized, and I can, of course, take the bite. Democratizing of cybercrime is very concerned. Think of it now with Gen AI. You can create an attack by creating a code through Gen AI. It lowers the technical barrier to entry. Okay, if until now we said, okay, I can buy an attack from the Tor network, whatever, or the dark web, or I need the pro developers that will know how to craft an attack through a very sophisticated code, the entry now is much lower. Okay, you can work with Gen AI and you can try to create a new, I would say, malware phishing or an attack in a much more faster way. So this is another domain that we should look at. And of course, impersonation, I would say the last one from my side. So it's not just text. Now we saw Sora, the latest news from OpenAI. You see that now with text, we can create short videos. Who can, I think that in a couple of months, we may not know that this is a fake video or something that.
How do we even know, Avi, that you're not an AI that we're interacting with in some unreleased Microsoft product?
I cannot answer this one.
Yeah.
I'm I'm an avatar, so you don't know if I'm a real person or an avatar. By the way, we are also already seeing companies, at least in Israel, cyber companies that are now creating technologies to recognize such an avatars that can impersonate like real human being. So you see another domain of security, I would say, products in that regard.
And just a shout out, I know we have, and when we were asking earlier where everyone was joining us from, I know we have an audience member from Singapore. The Singapore government has actually already dealt with this, where there was a deep fake video of a Singaporean politician that was talking about some political stances that it ended up being a completely fake video. And so it was actually talked about on the floor in the Singapore government. And so this is a real threat. This isn't something that people are just speculating about. It's already something that nation states are having to deal with. Now, Brian, I mean, you spend each and every day, as far as I know, when you're not on an airplane or skiing, with our customers, talking about the threats that face their data. And what have you seen from working with customers about how Gen AI is changing the attack surface?
Yeah, Avi, you hit on almost all of the issues. But I think one way to think about this is Gen AI and tools, not just like ChatGPT, but also the copilots, have made every step of the kill chain for a threat actor much easier. Everything from reconnaissance, either the high-level reconnaissance or internal reconnaissance at the network level, intrusion through spear phishing or phishing emails, privilege escalation, establishing persistence, data exfiltration. Basically, all of the steps of the kill chain become much, much easier because you have tools that are designed to make everybody more productive. If they make a knowledge worker more productive, they make a threat actor and an insider threat much more productive as well. It's easier to get in. It's easier to find valuable assets because from a security perspective, the target is always data. You can't unbreach data. Everything else, you can rebuild the infrastructure. You can even restore from backups, but you can't unbreach data. You can't put the genie back in the bottle or the toothpaste back in the tube, whatever idiom we'd like to use. Data is always the target. I say sometimes flippantly that nobody breaks into a bank to steal the pens. They're after money. If a threat actor gets access to a device or an account, they phish one of your users, or they're already inside because they're an insider threat, the target is going to be data. And the steps that a threat actor takes to get access to and then exfiltrate data are easier because of these tools. It's easier to get in, it's easier to do the recon, it's easier to find the most valuable information. It's even easier to steal it these days. You can ask Copilot, show me all of the data that I've got access to that's labeled as sensitive. Take that content, put it into a new document, label it as public, create a link that anybody can use, and now my job is done. I don't have to walk out the building with a hard drive or a
And
USB
Brian,
stick.
that was a little bit too specific. So I wonder if our security team is listening to this webinar today. That
I
was a
hope they
little bit
are.
too
I
prescriptive
hope they are. And I know
of
they
an
are because I
example
know
of how you might exfiltrate information. Now, I want to call out Dominic made a really great point in the chat that will help us to kind of move to our final topic as well. Dominic said, I think the biggest threat from AI is the ability to modify hacker tools, change hashes, and threat signatures on a rapid basis. And Avi, we were talking about this the other day, and you talked about like the battle of the robots. Do you want to talk about how, how that's shaping out, how we, yeah, as defenders can use Gen AI, or kind of how you foresee this upcoming war of the robots?
I don't want to scare our audience, but battle of the machines or battle of the robots. But actually, what we see in Microsoft, and this is our, I would say, innovation going forward in that domain, is that you need to fight with AI-based attacks with an AI. Okay, so human being will not be able, to follow up against the huge amount of signals and sophisticated and the correlation that will be much harder to, to possess because it's a new domain. Okay, you need to learn the new domain. It took us a while to reach where we are here. With defenders. And what we are working with Microsoft, and by the way, together with Varonis as a partnership, but Microsoft announced I would say a new platform called Security Copilot. That Security Copilot, in a way, will serve the SOC analyst that actually needs to see events and incidents and needs to correlate and to do threat hunting smartly. And as we know in organization, they have a very vast landscape of different security products that collect signals and events. And at the end, the SOC analyst needs to sit in this room and analyze different and consider if this is an attack, a malware, and the next step that I need to take forward. What we are doing with Security Copilot is we teach the Gen AI on a massive data set that Microsoft has collected, in the last 40 years when it comes to security signals. We are collecting more than 65 trillion of events per day. We teach the Gen AI, we model the Gen AI how to observe of new attacks, ransomware, malwares, at all the attack vectors. And now we can introduce or help the security analyst work with the Gen AI, smart Gen AI that can serve as a defender and work 24/7, 365 days in a year, not resting for a minute. And I can, in natural language, ask him, what is the attack surface in my organization? What is the most important incidents, et cetera, and he will bring the insights to me as a SOC analyst, will save me a lot of time. And by the way, can also do very smart things like reverse engineering to attack. So I can upload a script, I can upload a different set of data, and the Gen AI and the Copilot will help me understand what the reverse engineering of the attacks. Now, with Security Copilot, and I think that this is where Varonis can also shine and help Microsoft with that approach. I mentioned it's a platform, so it's not just Microsoft products, meaning that organization can benefit from this technology. And we are opening this platform to third-party vendors. Varonis is part of them. So imagine that if you have a Varonis solution with your organization and you are using Security Copilot, we can get the insight, the signals coming from Varonis platform, and the SOC analyst can, work with the AI to consolidate and understand if I have an attack or what are the next steps that I need to take, and the signals will be brought much faster and correlated to the analyst.
Yeah, thanks. And Brian, I know you really like to talk about our use of AI with Athena, and if you let me, I might add some things at the end about how we use it for SOC analysts. But can you talk a little bit about how Varonis is using AI and its products, and maybe even if you wouldn't mind, also kind of talking about our generative AI assessment that we do. I know we're going to cover that at the end again as well, but it's just a great tool for people to see like what's the current blast radius of AI and what can I do about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got to fight fire with fire. And there was a great question in the chat. Is the kill chain the same as the blast radius? And the answer is not really, but they are absolutely related. If you think about the blast radius, it's imagine that an account or a device were compromised. What could that device or what could that account actually access? And that answer is actually different for every account, whether it's a human or a service account, whether it's an admin or executive, all of that matters. And organizations really struggle with not just measuring that blast radius, but effectively and safely reducing it. You can reduce the blast radius to nothing, just delete all the data. But obviously, to your point, now you lose all of the value out of all of that data. So you need to use automation to not just measure it, to know what data you have and where it is and who and what has access to it and how it's being used. But Matt, to your point, you can use the power of generative AI to effectively reduce that blast radius, to get it down, to apply least privilege and make sure that all the data is safely labeled with purview so you can apply file level controls and rights management, and you can do encryption and blocking, but you can also make sure that people and applications don't have access to what they're not supposed to have access to. And you can ask Athena AI, show me all of the sensitive files that are open to everybody. And Matt, I know your team uses it as part of making them more productive when something does happen. How do we reduce the time to detection and reduce the time to response for an alert? What does this account have access to? Is this new? What else have they touched? Is any of this file sensitive? Where did they come from? What's the time of day? We can help automate that investigative process as well, because nobody has enough time and people to go look at every single event on their own. You need automation to do this.
And if you look at and you have your AI look at, okay, I have analysts, they look at alerts. There are tasks that they do over and over again every time they get the same signal. Your AI can actually figure this out. I mean, Microsoft Copilot can do this. Varonis has capabilities for this as well. And this is where you're reducing that time to detect, that time to respond. You're letting AI do things like risk score the alerts or correlate alerts together across multiple areas. You're asking, do we see this anywhere else? I mean, these are simple questions like natural language query that can also reduce the ramp time it takes for someone to get into it. Now, before we start to talk about our last poll and all that here, I know that we have gotten a tremendous amount of questions and comments that have come in through the chat. And so I don't know, Brian, if there's any that you want to start with. I'll also ask, I know we probably have Killian, maybe even Frank, or obviously are all marketing co-hosts, our production team in the background. If there's any questions that you want us to cover first, go ahead and throw them in the chat to Brian and I now. Otherwise, Brian, why don't you cover something that's come in so far that you thought was really important?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of questions that I think relate to what we think of as visibility. You can't catch what you can't see. You can't fix what you don't know about. And I think where a lot of organizations are struggling right now is they want to get the benefit of these tools. They want to use Copilot for 365. They want to make their people more productive. But what tends to keep the security teams up at night is it's not the problems that they know about. If you know about a problem, you can figure out how to fix it. It's all of the problems that they don't know about. They don't know where things might be exposed, or you can ask Copilot, show me all the files that have credentials so you can find logins and passwords. You can find connection strings. You can even ask it to write the code to use the API key that you found in a file that you had access to. So visibility is kind of everything. You can't build automation on top of nothing. You need to know the problems that you're trying to solve. And I think we're helping a lot of organizations we're doing Copilot readiness assessments along with Microsoft, where we will show you where your risks are and we'll put together a plan to automatically fix them, because none of us have a security team or a compliance team or a governance team that's big enough to go fix all these problems on their own. You need automation to fix these problems, and we can do it together.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Ashley, our co-host, to put out the end of session poll while we start to do the last couple of questions here. But Avi, while we're working on that, I'm going to throw you the next question, which is one of our attendees wants to know, how do I show the value and ROI of Copilot?
Okay, so I can respond this in I would say two levels. Okay, I'm not if the question is for the Copilot 365,
Yeah,
which is
let's
the
let's
product.
assume it's for the productivity side of the Copilot. How do I
Yeah,
show the value of Copilot and the ROI of Copilot?
yeah. So I think that we made it easy in Microsoft. So we launched a dashboard, which is in our latest announcement because we got this question many from customers. Okay, I need to sell it to my board, to my management. What is the product? And now with Copilot dashboard that we introduced to 365 Copilot, you can benchmark your Copilot employees that are using Copilot and versus the employees that not using. And we are getting a very high valuable dashboards. How many summaries we got, how many documentations we got, how many times we saved on meetings or joining meetings or recap on meetings. So we are creating a very, I would say, verbose dashboard that management and senior management in organization can come with data and understand, okay, I used Copilot in my 300 users. This is the benefit. This is this is how many hours we saved, how many meetings they didn't need to be onboarded, and they can take the recap and they save time and did other things. Versus, of course, employees that work, I would say, with non-Copilot. So in that regard, it's quite, I would say, structured now, and not feel that as a pre-sale we are doing with customers. So you get data inputs that you can work within the organization and see the value in the ROI.
And Brian, I'm going to throw this next one at you. Are there tools available that can do the labeling and classification work required to safely implement something like a Copilot?
It's funny you should ask, Matt, because if you use both Varonis and Microsoft together, you can do exactly that and do it automatically. Microsoft gives you the controls, right? We've seen Purview. Anybody, almost everybody here, I'm assuming, has got 365, and you can go, if you've got E3, you can go into a document, you can apply a sensitivity label. The trick, though, is how do we make sure all those labels are accurately applied? One of our customers is a casino, and Avi, you may have heard similar stories to this, but their DLP controls prevented any users from accessing sensitive data from personal devices, which is totally appropriate. I don't want people accessing sensitive data from personal devices. Their users discovered that if they marked the files as public, then they could work from home and they wouldn't have to brave Vegas traffic and they could get in. So we did a risk assessment with them and we discovered a lot of really highly sensitive stuff that had been marked as public. So with Varonis and Microsoft and Purview together, we can automate the labels, ensure that anything that's been downgraded has the accurate label applied, that all of the files on premise in 365 have a label applied automatically, and then you can use the controls to encrypt and block and apply rights management and enforce retention. That's one of the best ways to apply a perimeter control and even ensure you can prevent Copilot from ever returning sensitive data or highly sensitive information like digital secrets or credentials as part of any response. It's a great way to ensure that the preventive controls are both accurate, appropriate, and that your users aren't circumventing them.
Yeah, and we got a ton of questions that have come in, team. We're going to get through a couple of more here. One of them was, here we go. My business is not enabling AI. In fact, we're actively blocking generative AI because of privacy and security concerns. How does Copilot solve some of these concerns? And Avi and
Okay, you
Brian,
want
why
me
don't
to
you
take
both
it?
take a stab? Yeah, go both of
Yeah.
you. Avi first. Go ahead.
Okay, so I can take it from what we are working at least with our customers, and we get it mainly from our regulated markets. In Israel, which is the FSI, the healthcare, they're not quite open. It's not tech companies that are used to work outside. So governance tools, with data, We are using them for many years. With Gen AI, it shouldn't be different. But the main source, and also as Brian mentioned, we need to validate that the labeling or the sensitivity that we put on the data, on the source data itself, will be cascaded no matter what, even if the Gen AI will craft, fusion answer from different documents. It will create a new answer, a new summarization. We need to take care that cascading those labeling and keeping the same sensitivity for this new burn data will be in place. And I think this is what Microsoft is doing. And also I think that Varonis is doing it very well. So this is one approach. Second one is we're taking care about customer data. So one of them is that Microsoft is declaring, and also by contract, that Microsoft is not using or leveraging customer data. By the way, we are saying that we are even not using customer data and prompts to train the large language model. So we are not using customer data to train the large models. We are working very closely, that all prompt and traffic will be encrypted, and customer data will not be involved with other customer data. So we are putting many controls and governance for organization to feel safe when working with their data, and of course, Gen AI on top.
And Brian, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Avi did a really good point, made a good point. The controls are all available. The trick is making sure that the controls are appropriate. And in a world where, again, you have more shared links created every day than the number of employees that you have. And because of these collaborative platforms make it almost doesn't matter where the data lives. It doesn't matter if it's in my OneDrive or yours or in a SharePoint site or in a Teams chat. It doesn't matter because we're expected to access it from anywhere and share with anybody who might need access to it. You need to leverage automation to solve this problem, and to make sure that it stays solved, because it's an inelegant analogy, but just because you've mowed your lawn once doesn't mean that this grass isn't going to grow back. You need to have automation in place to ensure that the preventive controls stay appropriate and accurate, and that you've got good detective controls, because we're in a world where you're kind of always under attack. And so you need to make sure that not only do you have the good locks on the doors, but that you've got cameras in place to watch what people are doing.
And just to because we've answered a ton of questions and comments that have come through the chat. What I want to do is give you guys each, your elevator pitch, your final minute here. And we'll let Avi go first, and then Brian. And one thing I just want to add as well, we did see a number of comments about like seeing the ROI of a Copilot, and the first thing I just person to person, find a way for it to benefit yourself, and you might find just how easy it is to sell other people on it. I really do encourage everyone, even if you're just using like the initial version you can get with the Microsoft browser, to make a few text prompts, start experimenting with it, and it might become crystal clear to you how easy it is to talk about the ROI of doing something like a Copilot. And Avi, what are your final thoughts?
I think that I'm a lot of years in this area. Okay, more than 20 years in technology. I think that every time there is a new technology coming, and we are saying the pessimistic ones. Yeah, they were saying another hype, 1 year, 2 years, it will vanish, and we will live our life as usual. But I think that this is a real, big milestone and breakthrough since the internet. Okay, even our, Satya Nadella, our CEO, saying, it's not something that we can say, it's a hype. In 4 years, it will not be there. This is a real game changer. And by the way, we see it on the field. Many years in this landscape, first time I think that customer is calling us. Microsoft, I'm sure they're calling you, Varonis, on being proactive. Customers are being proactive. They want to explore solutions. They want to explore mitigation, and they want to see how they can embed it fast within their organization, because they see the benefits. It's not under the hood technology that, we are tech savvy personas, engineers. We like it. We fund it. This is, customer, consumer, end user technology that can really benefit. I think this is the game changer. Microsoft, the ones that are looking what we are doing in the last year, we I would say revised our entire portfolio, not just the 365 Copilot, but the developers tools like the GitHub Copilot, the security tools that we embedded Gen AI within each and every security tool, CRM, ERP solution that Microsoft is dealing with. Every line of business within Microsoft is now augmented with Gen AI, and it took us, we are doing this work with the last 2 years. We have the know-how. Microsoft is a huge company, and we put all our dices on this one. And the ones that are looking at the stock, I'm sure that you see that is
I
succeeding.
think you're the biggest company in the world right now, Avi. So try to hold the power. Brian, what about you? What are kind of your closing thoughts on everything we talked about today?
Yeah, I agree with Avi. This is the future. Those that are, we see organizations that are trying to do things like block Copilot or block Gen AI usage. But I think if you fast forward 6, 12, 18 months, this is the way we're going to work in the future. Just like we're not going back to a world where I can't access anything from anywhere and I can't share with anybody. We're not going to go back to a world without these kinds of Copilots. But what's gonna hurt us is the unknown unknowns. And so organizations that are being proactive, that are trying to answer the questions about what they don't know about their data and what they don't know about where they're exposed and not applying automation to fix it. The ones that are doing that are the ones that are going to be ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, and I think just to echo both of those points, David Gibson from Varonis, he's our strategic programs SVP, on a recent episode of State of Cybercrime, which is a web show that I host with David. I'll ask the production team to drop a link in the chat for anybody that's interested. He said that he thinks that Gen AI is as big of a frontier as space. And I thought this was a really powerful statement, that there was so much that we haven't learned about space yet, and so much we have gained from all the space exploration that has happened in modern day. There's probably even more to get from AI. And with that, I want to say thanks first to our audience. You guys are who make Data First Forum possible. But also thank you to the panelists and the co-hosts and everybody that participated in the chat or asked a question. This is all made possible by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Signing off, everybody. Thanks.